And I think, good grief, it's a while since I've done one of these. I think that is that, everyone. Here we go. 100 of you here watching, ready. We're live. In fact, let me go onto the old Twitter sphere and shout loudly that we are live, just to let everyone know. And while I do that, everyone can go, hello, come watch Railnatter, everyone on Twitter. Here we are. There we are. That's exactly what I'm going to say. There we go. Post. Go. Profile. Tab. Pin. Oh my goodness. Right. Let's get rid of that. Oh, hello. Hopefully, I mean, sound is appearing before me. In fact, let's do this. Hello, everyone. It's been a while, hasn't it? You've had a few pre-records piled up because I've been on shared parental leave with a little one behind. Actually, I need to remember not to get too excited because there is a little one behind me sleeping or attempting to sleep. This is group therapy, Raphael. Yes. Hello, everyone. Just go in the chat. Let's do this. Right. We all know why we're here. We're here. All of you, all 100 of you are here. It's a Q&A. It's going to be a bit like the first. Wait a minute. Did I just go big face and my big face thing is gone? Wait a minute. What's going on there? Why has big face disappeared? Oh, I know why. Wait a minute. Let me. There, it's back. It's back. Big face is back. It's because I used this for a news thing recently. There we are. Big face is back. Yes. Sorry, this is a dreadful waffly introduction, everyone. But everyone in the chat, we know why we're here. We're here because of the. Let's go back to no face. We're here because of the plan for drivers. The government's wonderfully announced plan for drivers. Obviously, how good this is going to be for this country. Yes, this is a big Q&A session, like the first ever episode of Railnatter. There is no plan other than let's chuck questions at me. We've got a few questions from Twitter as well that I've got lined up, but we're going to go through those. I've got this is the first chance. Christoph et al. Did I give you congratulations for submitting, by the way? We're going to get a map up and talk through what's happened. This is back to our roots episode. So let's do this. Let's get cracking, and we'll talk through some stuff. But yes, chuck questions in this direction, and we'll discuss whatever those questions are. We're here to discuss. After I say, everyone, welcome to tonight's Railnatter. And as the Intercity 225 fades away, this was going to originally be a news episode, but it isn't, because they did it, folks. They did it, folks. It's gone. A lot of people going, why are you saying they cancelled HS2? Lots of people say they haven't cancelled it, they're building it. It's like HS2 was never, and could never be considered as, a single high-speed segregated line from London to Birmingham. That is not HS2. That is not what HS2 needs to be. Therefore, it is not HS2. HS2 is gone. What is being built isn't HS2. So HS2 has been cancelled fully. That's where we're at. Yeah, a few people expecting the O Fortuna Chaos theme tune. No, I contemplated it, but I thought we needed something to cheer us up. So what has HS2 been replaced with? Well, it's been replaced with the plan for drivers, and it's been replaced by this nebulous nonsense that is Network North. What is this Network North nonsense? What is this thing? This thing is basically, it is, and I'm sure there'll be lots more questions, it is 70, I think, road building projects, and then a few made-up railway projects, and that's it. How much how jokerified am I at this point? Fairly jokerified at this point, yes. Network North, yeah. So what's also funny about Network North is why is this lot in it? Why is this in it? What's going on with this? This is in the north. Yeah, also appearing to break devolution, breaking a devolution settlement here. It isn't the UK government's right to propose projects like this within the Scottish border. It's not up to them. They don't get to do that. So they're just, screwing over that. Yes, and then it's a load of... everything marked here is just stuff they've made up in a hotel room. Actually, it's not in a hotel room, because this had been thought of a few days before. Actually, this is stuff that they thought of in number 10 late at night, with Gilligan in the room, presumably drinking pints and patting himself on the back. Yes, so we're going to go through and explain the status of exactly what's been happening with HS2 in total momentarily. But this is the gibbering nonsense that they've come up with as a name. It's not a network. It's a load of individual bits. You can't just say the word network when it isn't a network. Anyway, there's so much. I don't even know where to start. This is why I'm going to keep it Q&A rather than me ranting, because also all this stuff that they've just put dots in for, they've not even labeled, just to kind of. But a lot of it's all this. Anyway, it's just, don't worry too much about this, because this is all just gibbering nonsense, just rubbish. It's just all absolute rubbish. There's not even something to worry about. So let's go big face again. Also, I forgot to put this up behind me. Where am I going to put this, folks? Where am I going to put this wonderful Yugoslav original possibly 1960s, probably 1970s yacht ashtray taken off a caravel at some point? Where am I going to pop it? The thing is, it won't stay up because it's kind of the pointy end at the bottom. I need somewhere to put it. Anyway. It looks like they've given Britain chicken pox, says Jamie Potts. They might have even called it Metro North. Gareth is saying, Shemai Gareth, rants are good. I always enjoy a rant. Yes. Oh, potholes. Yes, absolutely. They're diverting the money into potholes. Right. Let's do a status update to say what's going on, and then we'll get into the questions. And this is the first time. Thank you. Shout out, by the way, to Bentley, who have given me a free license of MicroStation. The advantage of this being, no longer do I have to bring stuff into Google Earth. I can just do stuff in MicroStation on screen, which is quite exciting, because if I go to Smallface, hello, it's me in the corner. Look, it's MicroStation. It's my CAD software. Here you can see the British Rail network. I've kind of marked the main lines roughly in thick, but it's not a precise art, to be honest. I've kind of roughly marked where the main lines are. I've not done the middle main line. Whoops. But the middle main line then goes up here as well, so I should probably put the middle main line in chunk as well. Anyhow, this is actually some old stuff that I've done, so don't worry about that too much. There's the roughly you can see the West Coast main line, the East Coast main line, though, so it's kind of useful. Here is yes, lots of questions coming in about it. Do at me for questions, but I'll go back through anyway. So here in white is HS2 at its fullest extent. Where this bit, the connection to this is the HS2 so the first bit that got canned off, and probably rightly so, was the connection to, actually, did I even show that? Yeah, this bit here, the connection between HS1 and HS2, that's gone. That's gone now. Also, interestingly, it shows some of the connections and corrections to the on-network. Anyway, yeah, don't worry about that. Let's hide that. In fact, let's hide all the on-network works, because it's confused things. So, there's Euston, by the way. In fact, you can see it against there's Euston with its original 11 platform layout. Marvellous. So this is the pre-Oakervee HS2, right? So you have the line running from Euston through Old Oak Common. Here's Old Oak Common, by the way, 10 kilometres outside of Euston. Here's Old Oak Common. You can see the box being constructed here, in fact. You can sort of see all the work happening. Under construction very much. And then the line traces up through London. Here it is, whizzing along. And you can see here it's in a big tunnel, and then immediately it isn't at this point. In fact, you can see the two tunnel boring heads there. Very nice. And then it whizzes along, kind of coming out of London. As you can see, very much under construction. In fact, you can see this is recent Google Earth, because they've built the pontoon on which they are in the process of building the caissons there, and they're building the Colne Viaduct. Then, as you know from a previous rail natter, it comes up to this enormous, what will become a massive chalk habitat, which I've walked around the perimeter of, which is quite interesting. Whizzing through, you can see they've built one of the bridges already there, very nice. And then through into the Chiltern tunnels, whizzing under the Chilterns for a that's one of the head houses. In fact, you can see the progress being made on one of the shafts there, and probably another one. There's another shaft, lovely. Out of the Chilterns, and there's another shaft. There we go. And pop, out it comes. And here's the alignment running through. You can sort of see the scale of this infrastructure and the fact that it is being built. This first very expensive section is very much being built. Over it goes, and it whizzes all its way up to whiz, whiz, whiz. Following the Great Central Main Line, by the way. Oh, here's my bit. This is my bit I designed. As it goes around Calvert, because they screwed up the vertical alignment. This is where the infrastructure maintenance depot is going to be. That's what's there. And a load of extra stuff. East-West Rail also being built in the other direction there. There's East-West Rail getting constructed. Marvellous. Very good. And up and on and on and on. It's a big old bit of infrastructure. You can see it's happening. This is a railway being built right now. Whiz, whiz, whiz. Is this where it goes through? Let's keep going. And on. I'm not going to do this the whole way. Don't worry, folks. It's just to give you an idea of the construction site, because it is. This is imagery from God knows when, but it's only more advanced than this as we speak. Whizzing up, there's where Birmingham Interchange Station is going to be. So there's Birmingham Interchange, the next station there. Birmingham Interchange, kind of in a weird place. It's not that far from Birmingham International Airport, International Station on the West Coast Main Line there. But yes, there's where Interchange Station to be. And then it gets up to Delta Junction up here, where they've already built all the bits that are now going to be shit canned. But more on that in a second. And then it whizzes over, it drops into some tunnels here. So there's a tunnel portal here under a tunnel, pops out into a portal here where the train depot is going to be. That won't need to be as big anymore. Whizzes over here, and arrives into Curzon Street Station, which is here. So that's the... we won't worry about this bit, which I've forgotten. I think I was mucking around with looking at station sizes, so don't worry about that. So, fine. This is a live working CAD model, by the way. Let's see. So, London, Birmingham, that's that bit. That's phase 1. And if I temporarily switch off these two bits, that's phase 1. And the extra bits up here are the passive provision, by the way, which is already being built to connect up to the eastern leg. And then the construction of the line, having already had structures launched under motorways, by the way. There they are building the structure they then subsequently launched on SPMTs, working its way up to connect up to the West Coast Main Line. Again, this is being built. And this is the bit that government are in the process of shit canning. There's, I think, possibly a different alignment for the Handsacre bit. There's the connection to Handsacre Junction, and there's the connecting spur that goes out, connecting on towards Crewe. And that's as far as they've got, because that's as far as they've got for the legal act. Although they have done ground clearance works, and various bits of prep work has happened already in preparation for the connection up to Crewe, because that's the next bit, which is, so that's phase 1. Phase 2A was then the connection to Crewe. So from this link up here, you then swizz along here, basically following the West Coast Main Line, but with a faster alignment, smash a golf course, good riddance, whiz through here, all fairly unimpressive terrain, to be honest. Schwizz over here and end up with joining up to Crewe Station. I don't exactly know what Crewe's actual plans are looking like at the moment, because Crewe Hub is kind of up in the... Actually, what is that? I think that's probably an infrastructure maintenance depot. Ignore that. Sorry, we're not in Crewe yet. There we are. Whiz along. There's the West Coast Main Line we just crossed. Here's a... What is this? Probably a bit of a flying junction in readiness for some tunnels that will disappear off under Crewe, and then for the bit that actually connects up to the West Coast Main Line, and then you get the Crewe station where something will happen. That's essentially the phase 1A bit, is connecting up to the existing West Coast Main Line to allow trains to join at Crewe, but to provide you some capacity benefit around this section and providing you a very important bypass of Birmingham, etc. That's phase 2A. Phase 2B was both the western leg and eastern leg. The eastern leg whizzing up here about 200 kilometers, going up to through very useful hub station here at... If I inadvertently deleted bits, anyway, never mind. Basically, this is East Midlands Hub station between Derby over here and Nottingham over here. I know I haven't got labels on, sorry everyone, but your UK geography should be good enough with railways. With a weird, stupid spur skipping Sheffield, and then nothing, which is a mistake. I think there's a bad design. They should have kept with Meadowhall. Whizzing up with a spur, again, not ideal design, a spur into Leeds, and then the main route heading up and connecting up towards York. So that was the eastern leg. The western leg then went from Crewe, with the tunnels going through. So tunnels going through Crewe, taking the high-speed line out from Crewe with a connection off the West Coast Main Line back onto the high-speed line to allow you to stop at Crewe if necessary. And then this big junction whizzing in one direction across round to and into Manchester, and the other direction. I think this is the I think this is the 2016 route, so it's still about the right alignment. And then this link here called the Goulburn link, which then provided you the connection onto the West Coast Main Line whilst bypassing Warrington there and coming through and heading northwards in that direction. So that was the western leg. What has happened? John Christoph was asking for what the status currently is. So 2 years ago with the integrated rail plan, cancelled the eastern leg of HS2. So that's gone. Eastern leg, gone. It also, thanks to Orkervy, we had seen the Euston had been reduced from a 11-platform 2-stage build into a 10-platform single-stage build. That was actually the first change. Was the alteration here? Was the Euston alteration post Orkervy? This was bad news. Then the integrated rail plan shit canned the eastern leg. There was a stupid spur going up to East Midlands Parkway, but frankly, it was not like. There was some value to that, frankly, particularly as you could use it to then build the full eastern leg. But the fact that it wasn't coming into a new hub station in between Derby and Nottingham, that it was relying on going into Derby and Nottingham, wrecked Derby and Nottingham stations in terms of capacity. It meant that that whole line became a south-facing, and we've talked about this before in previous rail lines, but it became a north-south facing. It became a south-facing only leg rather than providing the northern-facing connectivity, which is what the hub did. Now we've had the announcement from government about HS2 being cancelled. What have they done? Well, we lost the Goulburn link for starters, like a few weeks after the integrated rail plan. This bit here, the Goulburn link here, this bit got rid of by Boris just purely for Graham Brady, who was in charge of the 1922 committee that allows him, basically a load of internal Tory party politics allowed him to shit can the Goulburn link, which is very bad. So that's gone. And then the most recent announcement gets rid of the western leg. So it has got rid of both the western leg and phase 2A. So we've gone from this to this. Let's do that again. We've gone from this to this, whilst also losing all of this. I believe this is gone. They've taken that away. So they've turned it into a shuttle service between London and Birmingham. This government isn't going to have time to talk about, hopefully they're not going to have time to do any changes to the design at Curzon Street or the size of the depot, because they need the full depot when they run all the trains eventually, when hopefully the whole thing gets built properly. We can dream. But at the moment they're talking about changes to this as it's being built. They're talking about changes to reduce its cost. God knows what they could be thinking about. Slab track to ballast might be one suggestion they'll try and make, which will cost a lot of money. People are saying Handsacre is still there. Not from my perspective, because I have a lot of friends who are designers on Handsacre, and they've been taken off it. It's all been shrunk. I have the designers have been taken off Handsacre. So even if they are thinking about doing Handsacre still and considering doing it, because there is no other way to get trains onto the West Coast Main Line, the designers have been taken off it. So I don't know. Yeah, I know there are a lot of people currently who work for HS2 in the chat and or working on the project, and your fury and worry about your own futures is not lost on me. So other things that are important here. Let's put all this back on, and let's just click on this here. So this, I don't know that one, that's my one. Where's the actual TFN ones? Here. Yes, these. these are the various TFN options, and I think ultimately the one they came up with, they wanted to go with what is the through station at Piccadilly, which involved the Warrington connection. I think basically it's, let me just get rid of this. I think it's something along the lines of, let's just do this. How can I not give away too much? It's sort of, it's difficult to exactly show. You know what? I will put the TFN ones back on again. So these are the various TFN routes from back 2016, I think. Looking at the various different options, the selected route for the proposed full 36 billion, whatever it was, east-west route was through Warrington, and down. Use HS2. Have a grade separated junction. Why is my scroll not working? Oh, you know what? I'm going to go big face and fix that. Just a sec, everyone. I've just crashed MicroStation. There we are. Sorry, MicroStation. Forgive me. I'll be back momentarily. Yes, James Shanley has made the point that the key thing about the kind of important context of government talking about NPR is the fact that, there we go, that's desk. Hello, everyone, it's desk cam. Hi. Is that NPR relies on this bit, the HS2 bit that runs into Manchester. It relies on this to get in and out of Manchester. This slightly weird route makes a little more sense once you account for the route continuing on to on its dedicated route through into Liverpool, with, you know, there are various options of a weird kink or kind of straight line running. There's some options, the various options. They're all hideous. I have a better option, which at some point we'll do rain latter, and I'll show you that some of those lines I just hinted at. I'll show you. The point being that NPR, this stupid name for the new high speed route across the Pennines, needs this. The thing is, everyone's saying that this isn't so much of a gotcha because. This isn't so much of a gotcha because at the moment NPR is currently being worked on by a team within Network Rail, and it is just looking at upgrades to the existing infrastructure. There are very few elements that are new as part of those plans, and all of them are absolutely on the table to the point where none of them might happen. So we have, that's something to bear in mind. That's the idea of providing that infrastructure was integral to the delivery of better east-west connectivity. Likewise, Leeds providing additional platforms on the north-south axis freed up the space on the east-west axis, so you didn't have trains sat there. You know, the Leeds train, the London trains sat there. You got extra platforms for London trains, so you got essentially more capacity for through trains. And more suburban trains, but also the long distance through trains. So, yes, again, I think there are better options for what you do in Leeds. I think you can have it all east-west, but to do some extra, you know, build an extra box next to the canal or double deck the station. There are other things you could do and should do, is my view. But that's for another episode. We're talking about the reality, the political reality is not the ideal HS2. That is. So let's just hide the NPR stuff for now. Oh, by the way, HS1 there is whizzing through. For anyone curious, there's HS1 whizzing through up into London from the south. So let's start with some questions, shall we? Let's go big face, in fact, for some of these questions. So I'm going to start with the questions that came through on the internet. First question was. We will talk about costs. So it could be worth. So Barney asked, could be worth going over the justification for cancelling HS2. They somehow claim a reduction in commuters as a reason, and they announce a bunch of projects aimed at commuting. Yeah, there's no point going too deep into the reasons for its cancellation because all of them are basically made up waffle. The reason it's been cancelled is because Rishi Sunak and others are pitching for jobs in policy exchange in the Institute of Economic Affairs in a load of American right-wing think tanks, and cancelling HS2 is a thing they can put on their CV that they did because it makes those think tanks happy, it makes policy exchange happy, it makes Andrew Gilligan happy. So that's why. That's the reason it's happened. The costs are not spiralling on HS2. That they really look into that line because it's not true. At some point, I was going to do it for this episode, but you know, dad reasons, and we can talk more broadly about it. And maybe I'll do specifics in another episode. To be honest, when the dust settles, we can look in more detail. I need to pick through all of the reports. It would take some time. Go through the NAO reports, the Public Accounts Committee reports, and HS2's own reporting on exactly how the costs have evolved. But my current understanding is they're only about 15% above inflation from the original 56 billion at this point. That's not a tremendous increase compared to West Coast route modernisation, where the costs more than doubled. So yeah, don't. The idea of the costs spiral, that's spin. It is spin. Right. So, David Frankel, friend of the show, sending a couple of questions in advance. Number one, do you think it's physically possible to do Manchester to Bradford in 30 minutes via new lines Manchester to Marsden and Huddersfield to Low Moor? No. Simple as that. And I'll add an addendum to that, which is even if you could, you are losing so much on the existing network. And you're causing, having seen all of plans now that are being developed for as part of NPR, as part of the umbrella that's NPR. Although that team, I'm guessing, government has just shit-canned it because they've gone to this Network North thing that looks totally different. I don't know. Who knows? DFT don't even know what's going on. So Network Rail weren't consulted. DFT wasn't consulted. No one was consulted. This was entirely a Tory cabal idea. The back of napkin sort of stuff. It's really messy and horrible. Yeah, people within the DFT don't know who created the Network North document. Like, it's really, really not a mess. I'm guessing someone sent a Word template to someone in Policy Exchange, and they created the document to make it look like a civil service document. Bernadette Kelly, who's been the champion of HS2 for a very long time, permanent secretary to the Department for Transport, she has been defeated. She was one of the last defences against HS2 getting smashed up, and she's been defeated. And she wrote a letter saying, this can no longer be considered and classified as a levelling up project, as a transformational project. This no longer has the positive economic effects that it originally was intended to. Worth looking at what Bernadette Kelly said, actually. So next question is, I should probably take these over here, shouldn't I, so I can see you lot saying things. Wait a minute, let me bring you lovely lot back. There we go, and have my questions here. So, yes, Tim Ballum saying, heard today that the economic argument for HS2 is missing so much positive, including increased freight capacity. Yeah, it's worth reiterating. The economic case for HS2 did not include release capacity in the existing network, which is by an order of magnitude its greatest benefit. That's a really key thing. David Frankel is asking, what do you think Burnham and Company, Burnham and Co., so Annie Burnham, Mayor of Greater Manchester, Combined Authority, should do with the 12 billion? Ooh, that's an interesting question. So, assume that it isn't there is my first response, because it isn't there. It's funny that 12 billion is the number, because 12 billion is precisely the number that I came up with in a thread saying that Manchester should have if it was being paid the same amount of money that that London has had in spent on rail projects since I was born, since 1990. So yeah, 12 billion, interesting. Were they reading my tweet threads? I actually need to finish my information request, my access, what is it, thingy access request, data access request to the DFT to see what they've been mumbling about me behind my back. 12 billion quid, what would I do? Metro system. Absolutely forget the existing rail network. It's a waste of time. I would get 12 billion quid. I would build a proper metro system. That's what I'd do with the 12 billion. There we go. So that's that. Next question. So thanks, David. George, I've only seen one of your questions. Oh, yeah, here we go. So here's a question from George Marsh. Is there any sense in building the northern section of 2B just for NPR in order to better safeguard the future of HS2 for future generations? Or is there always a way to deliver high-speed rail to northern cities eventually? No, I do think this is imperfect, and I think my proposals for what a high-speed rail network better ought to look like are slightly different through here. Should we have a little sneaky peek? What do I think that they should look like around here? Oh yeah, that's right. I think that the high-speed lines should look... what do I think they should look like? Oh, I haven't really finished my Manchester bit yet. I think, have I got a junction coming in here like this? What am I thinking? Oh, it's not finished yet. There are various ideas I've got, but there's I mean, for starters, I assume that Manchester is on the main through route of HS2, not on a spur, is how I do it. So that's the first thing. So how that then ties up to the junction in the other direction, I presume maybe then I just have you know what? Let's park that for now, because I have various thoughts on what I would do coming out of Manchester and also involving or not involving Bradford. That's for the future, everyone. It's a future mapping tease for you there. Everyone here loves a little mapping tease. So yes, you could go with what the plans were, bearing in mind it's got all the safeguarding, it's all the existing designs, I would build that as planned. It locks in the ability to build that as HS2. It should be slab track. It should do all that stuff. I'd get that built. Here we go. Jack Elliott. Advanced question. How should we, the currently relative unorganised rabble of HS2 supporters, campaign for resumption of the project? We'll answer that at the end. Other question. Should the project be reorganised into a series of smaller chunks with Network Rail handed cash yearly for a rolling programme of HS expansion? Yes, it should be done that way. If not with Network Rail, then at least yes, basically, GB, ideally you'd have British Rail, and British Rail would be delivering this in smaller chunks. Yes, it should be delivered as bits, as segregated chunks. The challenge with our rail network is that it's rubbish. It's very unstrategic, and so there aren't that many places where you would connect back in and then dive back out of an existing high-speed rail network. But there are options you could have. If that was the way you designed it, you could design it slightly differently to actually tie into the existing rail network in various points more frequently to allow you. It would be more expensive, but it would allow you smaller sections to deliver it in smaller sections. And if that was the scope, if that was the specification for the design, to actually split it into smaller chunks that could be delivered in bite-sized chunks as part of a strategy, then yes, that would be how it's done. But that needs a long-term plan. It needs a big picture, and we just don't have that. So I think those are all the online questions. So I'm going to close that, and let's go through here and see what some of the questions are on here. I didn't put my map up, so you didn't see the sneak peek. That was stupid of me. Here, look. Sorry about that, everyone. I was zooming in and showing you the map, and you can actually see everything. There we go. Yes, sneak peeks. Did you actually see it? No, you didn't. Let me just show you, because I'm nice. Let's go here and do this and do this. So there's some interesting stuff going on here. There you go. I'll just show you a little flash, and this. So there's some stuff going. What's going on in Manchester, and then it whizzing up there. What's going on to get you over to Warrington, various options. How you actually connect up to Warrington, how that looks. Yes, because I have thoughts on exactly how that should look. I have thoughts on how Manchester would work, and also how you do a pick Vic, but that's a slightly separate issue for a different project, so don't worry too much about that. There's a lot of stuff in this CAD file. This is my brain dump ideas situation. And how you get over the Pennines with a fully high-speed line, and how you include or do not include Bradford. Yes, and also how you do not do the nonsense around Leeds, and in fact put Leeds onto the main through route of HS2. Yes. Anyway, we won't worry about any of that. We'll hide all of that. You don't want to see that, do you? You don't want to see any of that. It's not interesting. No one on here is interested at all in that. How much of these maps were part of your some number of ways HS2 could be better rail net? Yes, exactly. That's some of this was in there, and at some point we'll talk about what I think the final UK high-speed network should look like. It's for the future though. So questions. Let me whiz up to the top and go through and pick up the questions that I've got here. Let's leave, so I don't forget, let's leave HS2 up here, and maybe it's a bit of a prompt. Dylan, remember to @ me. If you @ my name, it'll come up in red. I'll miss all the comments that don't have me @ed, because there's a lot of questions in here. I'm a final year engineering student at Huddersfield. Fair to say the professors at the Institute of Railway Research have had a lot to say during lectures over the past few weeks. Yes, I'll bet they do. I've chummed with a lot of them. Very good people. Simon and Paul and others. Shout out to everyone at Huddersfield, at University of Huddersfield. We'll do a rail net from there at some point, because it'd be nice to go and say hello to Harold, etc. Yes, some very good people there, and I can imagine they're all peeved. Yes. So, if only one leg were to be built, if we had to choose only one, which one would you see as the more vital one? Eastern Oder, Western leg? Ooh, that's an interesting question. I've always made the case that the eastern leg is the more important one. But that doesn't mean that it's more important and should be built and the other one not be built. I think in terms of the original proposal of HS2 and the need for a high-speed line, it was as a West Coast main line, relief line. So the western leg would make more sense if you're only going to build one. But it's essentially a bit of a question of like, yeah, but that's kind of misses the point of the fact that eastern leg is the more transformational. So whilst if you're only going to build one bit, you'd build it up to through and beyond Manchester. The most important bit is actually the eastern leg, because the eastern leg, the HS2, as if you get rid of the eastern leg, HS2 is just adding a pair of fast lines to the West Coast Main Line. That's all it's doing. Big whoop. Whereas what you're doing with the eastern leg is connecting up. There is no. I know I've not got the Midland Main Line in here, so let's pop. Let's in fact pop. Let's just highlight the Midland Main Line, because it make your lives easier. This is all a bunch of ELRs here. So actually, technically, the Midland Main Line goes this way. So let's highlight the Midland Main Line. Midland Main Line, lovely. There it goes. There it also goes that way. So Tapton up to Sheffield. That's kind of where it ends. There is no, this network doesn't make any. There is no connection from the northeast down into Birmingham. There is no clean connection. It's made up of actually this is technically is a 125 mile an hour line now that they've got from Derby down to Birmingham. So it does actually act as a main line. But the cross country route has always been a bit of a bodge, and the alignment here is rubbish. It's not a very good bit of railway. And so this connection is the really key one, and also the fact that these lines are super congested and super busy. So that eastern leg was the more transformational. Interesting question. Okay, let's keep going. Whiskey 2 shots. I've gone up to this question. I don't know how far. There might be other questions. Ask them again if I've missed them. Given the strong support for HS2 and NPR at the Labour Party conference, do you have any hope that they might try to revive what can be revived for phase 2? Other people have asked this question as well. I don't expect to see HS2 being proposed by this Labour government. I would love them to do it. And I'm doing everything I can with the contacts I have behind the scenes to encourage them to do it. But I'm not getting my hopes up at this point. I'm not getting my hopes up. I just don't. I can't see a world where this Labour government, which is just forget all the spin from Andrew Marr and the Mirror and everyone since Starmer's speech, the Labour Party are kind of proposing to do business as usual. And the reality is that without serious reform of Treasury, business as usual does not include major infrastructure projects. The Treasury could not handle the fact that we were building this. It could not compute. They're constantly desperate to meddle, to alter, to intervene, and to make it not happen. Institutionally, I talked about this. I appeared on Trash Future. Hopefully, a good chunk of you have listened to that. I appeared on Trash Future. Like, institutionally, Britain is set up. All of our institutions are structured and set up to deliver as little as possible or nothing. Our institutions are set up by default to deliver nothing. So anything that alters path from delivering nothing is like walking upriver. It's a real struggle, and it was really difficult to get Treasury where they got to with it. And obviously they've done the easy thing. They've dropped into they've done the easy thing and just shit canned it entirely. So there we go. Sorry if that's not a cheerful answer. We'll get to what hope there is at the end. Crew Northern Connection is NPR provision. It's not required for the Western leg. Makes it even more compelling case phase 2B hybrid bill is required still, given Network North commits to an NPR. Yeah, inverted commas. Yeah, absolutely, James. Can I zoom in on Manchester HS2 station for a minute, Xander? I can, yes. This isn't necessarily the final... Manchester HS2 station is still up in the air very much. This is what the HS2 station looked like at the point at which this... at the point at which this was developed, which is 2016... I haven't got the latest centre lines on here, I think, from I haven't got the latest pre-Oakerby centre lines, I think, from Manchester. But this is quite a lot up in the air, and obviously I think the above ground station is a pants idea anyway. I think the far better thing to do is to build this as a low level underground station with a through connection onwards, and you don't build it on this axis. It doesn't make any sense to build it on this axis. You build it on the axis either in line with the railway or in fact more north south to. Depends what you're doing. Think about what the long-term proposals are. My proposal is actually this is the right alignment, because this becomes the main through route for HS2, and the station would need to be bigger. But that's another story, right? So let's keep going down. Christoph pointing out marginal costs and that it's pointless to not build this stuff. Yeah, that's not how this works. Remember, this all of the cancellations of this stuff. Oh, the other things they're doing, by the way, they're not just cancelled it. It's worth me saying they have. They're talking about selling land as early as possible, within weeks, to make sure that this can't be built on. They're talking about getting rid of safeguarding, so they're getting rid of the safeguarding of the route, which is a key thing to avoid this becoming very expensive to build, and then not have to go through all the rigmarole of new consultations, new designs, billions extra spent, but more importantly, years and years more delay. And also Euston. So they're proposing to, let's whiz down to Euston. What are they proposing to do at Euston? They are proposing not only to build half of the station only, so build a 5 or 6 platform station, but they're also proposing to build, to hand over this site to a nasty private army developer type development organization, and let them basically build on the part of the other half of the station, but build on it permanently with no station being there. So what I mean by that is remove any chance that the station could be built to the size it needs to be. This is a deliberate. This is spite. I was quoted in the Guardian by Helen. In fact, Helen phoned me up and I gave an interview and said, "This is spite. This is salting the earth. This is scorched earth. This is spiteful policy. This is vicious anti-future behaviour from this current government. It's baffling. They want to make sure that the decision they've made cannot be reversed. And good God, Labour are going to make no effort to reverse it." Hello, all nearly 300 people watching. That's quite remarkable. Do chuck your questions in. This is a Q&A. We are currently sat on Euston Station here, which is nice, isn't it? So, let's keep going. Campaign for North East Rail. Why does the original plan have so many branches into cities rather than a continuous through line? Cost? The only branch into... So the 2 branches... okay, no, they're not. There are multiple branches. There's a branch into Birmingham, which... Yes, I agree that it's annoying that it's on a branch rather than in the middle. It's also more annoying that it's built as a terminal branch as well. The reason for that is because there's no good... there's basically... They didn't want to pay for the cost of essentially boring a long tunnel through Birmingham and building a central station. I think geologically, it's quite tricky to do that in Birmingham. So I think the challenge there, particularly through the Black Country with mining, I think essentially the challenge is it would be very difficult to get a through station through Birmingham, and so it was considered to be a branch off the main line. I would prefer it to be a through line as well, but that's the current situation, and essentially it was designed around the proposed station specification. It's just like a certain number of people want to go to Birmingham, but actually a lot of people do want to go straight through to London. So there's some substantial operational benefit to actually shaping the network this way. So that's one spur. Let's go to the next spur, which is Sheffield. The Sheffield spur happened because of politics. Sheffield, or rather South Yorkshire, because there's an enormous population, not just in central Sheffield, but also not just in central Sheffield, but also in Doncaster and in Rotherham and in the whole of the kind of built-up area here, would be better served by a Parkway station. That's my view. So what do you do? Let's sneak this up. What do? You reinstate Meadowhall Station as it was originally planned. You maybe spend a bit more money to improve the alignment north, although it's quite tricky coming through past Tinsley Viaduct. South side of the station is easy. The north side is quite tricky to get through the valley here with a decent speed alignment. I've been playing with it. It is quite tricky. You build a through station, Meadowhall, and then you basically rewire. It's not that far. You rewire the network around Sheffield and this helps with capacity. You basically create an S-band network that allows you to go from central Sheffield very fast up to Meadowhall Station, hop off and hop onto the through services at Meadowhall. That's what should have been the plan. Local politics and also cost and Treasury got in the way of that. And so it was, the vanity of having the trains call at your own at the main city station in an area like this. Similar problems with Derby and Nottingham and East Midlands. So that got duffed. Hence, we lost. They end up with their little spur that also has trains going via Chesterfield. So it becomes weird politics. So they got a spur instead. Part of this is about we have a parliamentary democracy. So consensus building involves some of these weird compromises. So you get a less than optimal system, but you get the MPs happy, so it can get built. To be fair, that's our political system, and much as I'm not happy with the proposal, if it had been built like this, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Fine. it was built this way because of consensus. That's how our democracy works, and I'm at peace with that. The branch into Leeds, well, again, because it reduces the amount of new infrastructure required. There are easy, obvious routes into Leeds. And the key thing was that it was perceived that there is not the capacity and the space, the geographical space, to build more through platforms in Leeds. So the challenge was actually we do have space to build terminal platforms in Leeds instead. So that's what you do. You build a branch. Again, I see that as making it south-facing, south-centric system. It's not. It doesn't make as much sense as having it just on the main lines. As again, if I do this, you'll see that actually I'm more interested in building a line that runs through into Leeds as a through station and then continues on up to York. Actually, I'm not finished this. I think that potentially you do some boring and actually get the line. But there are things that I would do around Leeds differently to make sure that Leeds is actually on a through line. As for Manchester, well, the trouble with Manchester is Liverpool, and the trouble with Liverpool is Manchester. It's like, which one do you go through? Manchester's the bigger city, but Liverpool is also a substantial city. So, the original West Coast Main Line compromised and went down the middle as well. Although at this point, it was a combination of lots of different bits of railway here, really. I don't think that's right. I think that it's the wrong compromise. Actually, you're better to build a very fast shuttle from Liverpool to Manchester, because then you're doubling up the fact that lots of people go between Liverpool and Manchester. So you can take that fast connectivity and build a direct line through Manchester, hence why I've done something a bit more like this, which is where you don't have the Goulburn link. You actually come up through into Manchester. You have a trade. You align your platforms that come up the whiz through, and then you have it on the main route going north. But again, the reason why it's been done as a termination is because of lack of long-term planning, but also that compromise of, well, no, the main route has to connect up to the West Coast Main Line as quickly as possible. So if we were thinking about connecting to the West Coast Main Line further north, then you might have seen a different option there. Good question. Good grief, it's only 10 to, and I've answered very few questions. Right, let's go. Let's go. Jeremy Hunt, recent tweets about Euston. If you look at Battersea Power Station, King's Cross, that's what one used to be. Battersea Power Station's horrible. Absolutely awful bit of development. Good God, don't do that. King's Cross I don't mind, but again, the private army is not nice. Right, I'm going to skip over. If you've got questions and you haven't added me, you're going to miss. I will miss them. I've given my honest prediction about what Labour are going to do. Let's see. DPEILOW. I've always wondered how to pronounce your last name. Friend of the show, or ought to be. We need to get you on at some point. Happy to have you on here. Did your thread? I continue to refer back to your thread about carbon emissions, although it's all somewhat moot now. Question: what do you think about the Green Party not finding time to debate the Greens for HS2 or indeed rail at all during their conference last week? It's evidence of how much that party it still does not function. Until it's clearly such a critical. They're desperate not to have the conversation because they know it will be painful, because they know it's a split down the middle of the party, and they just don't want to have that conversation. There is obviously zero evidence on the side of... there are arguments against HS2, and what we've just seen happen was one of the arguments, that pursuing this as a single project was stupid. But none of the arguments being made by the Stop HS2 entryists, or those who are in the Green Party for a longer time who don't believe in HS2, and I can say this, I don't speak for Greens for HS2. Greens for HS2 are much more diplomatic than this. But the people who are opposing HS2 in the Green Party make absolutely no evidence-based arguments. Their arguments are recycled from right-wing talking points. They're just gibberish. They're like conspiratorial nonsense. They're just wax. They're just honestly just people with very limited brain power, very limited critical thinking skills to actually think through some of this stuff. And it's very depressing that the party is bowing to those people instead of realising their original policy is bunkum and shifting it. It's really embarrassing for them as a party, and it makes me, at the moment, my current vote intention is protest vote using the Green Party to show that it's a left-wing protest vote, not a right-wing protest vote. I feel uncomfortable about voting for the Green Party when they're this dysfunctional. They need to get their asses in gear, because Greens for HS2 have it's clearly a necessary conversation to have. For them not to talk about rail at all is just evidence of something which I'm currently writing about, which is this weird feeling on the left of like that railways aren't part of the future, that it's this feeling of like falling away from interest in railways. which I know for this audience is a strange thing to say, but honestly, in that kind of green-fingered left, railways often don't feature. And some of this stuff about development, it fits into the narrative, oh, development, bad, no, come on. Right, let's go down through. Michael C. Just thought I'd also like to take a moment to appreciate your transport shirt. We need to shout it from the rooftops right now. Yes, fuck the Tories and support trans rights. No. Move my mic. Support trans rights, everyone. You can buy all proceeds from this T-shirt, by the way, which you can get on the merch site, garethdennis.co.uk/merch, I think. All of it goes to LGBT Forum. I haven't actually paid them yet. I've got a big pile of money I need to send their way. But yes, please, if you can do in any way, just visibly support trans rights. Go out with a little trans flag lapel badge, whatever it is. Just visibly show that you are a trans ally right now, because they are currently being thrown under the bus by an evil government desperately intent on. Well, they don't even care about winning votes. They just want to make sure they cause as much heat for the trans community as possible, and basically move the Overton window such that Labour have to continue being hateful towards trans people, which unfortunately they are. Screw the Labour Party as well, who appear to have absolutely no interest in showing positivity either. Right. Oh my goodness. Right. It just reset, so I have to go back. What's the weird horizontal line over Birmingham? That's an accidental CAD line that I need to delete. Wait a minute, where is it? Let me just delete it right now so it doesn't confuse people. Let me just do this and do this. Yeah, that's just me accidentally drawing some CAD that doesn't need to be there. It's gone. So I think that was me drawing a high-speed station that I could use elsewhere. I might actually, you know what, I'm going to leave it there just in case I've forgotten to. I don't think it's me just testing. It's looking at the geometry that they've chosen for some of the stations, the high-speed access stations. I think I'll leave it there for now, just in case. It's just me moving some CAD around. Don't worry about that. Andy Karras, the way my dad put it was the outgoing government are trying to leave so much shit in the bed that nobody else wants to get in. Yes, I would agree with that. That's precisely it. 100% the spite is coming from the people pulling the strings in Tufton Street, just like they do whatever to block projects in the US. Yes, agreed. Raphael, high-speed trains running on conventional line, how good are they actually? Could be actually considered high-speed trains? Well, I mean, they are high-speed trains. The whole point is that, and as I talked about on Twitter, the whole point is that this project is about taking those high-speed trains that run now off the existing network and putting them on segregated lines to maximize capacity in those existing railway lines. That's the whole point. So if you're not doing that, you're making capacity, by definition, you're making capacity in the best case scenario, you're making it no worse. But the likelihood is, if you're trying to increase speeds, and if you're running bigger trains, longer trains that have bigger impact on signalling, or if you're running trains that are slower to accelerate, or if you're running, or if you want to run more of those trains because you're supposedly increasing capacity on the high-speed service, then that means wiping out local services, so you get worse local capacity, worse freight capacity. That's what the problem is. Rocket Dwarf, do you think that if HS2 had been proposed as the final and full GBA high-speed rail network, could the bit that we call HS2 have still been saved? I don't think... there are some people who make this argument that it all should have been stuck under one banner. It already was too much under one scope. It's part of the problem with the fact that you got all these... Oh, it costs 100 times more than high-speed rail on the continent. It doesn't, by the way. But even if you look at the actual numbers and compare the numbers, the reason it costs so much, and we're going to talk about costs in another episode as well. The episode that I teased last week for this will happen either next week or the week after. Oh, I've not even written what next week's episode is going to be. I forgot about that. Actually, I'm going to have to do that now while I chat to you all. Yes, the actual costs. You know what? I will do that for next week. I will make that next week's episode. So we'll talk about costs next week. But the main reason HS2 perceived as costing so much is because everything is in that one headline scope. So you've got all the station rebuilding. You know, you're doing all the expensive station approaches that would be a separate project in mainland Europe. You've got the depot is its own project. You know, you've got the station itself. You know, a huge main city, multiple platform city centre station being built is part of the headline cost. The bit of the cost for high-speed lines in Europe generally is for the bit from just outside the city to the other bit just outside the city where it connects into the existing route. And then because in most of continental Europe, you've got enough space on the railway corridor to actually put the high-speed lines, you know, either, you know, just gobble up some of the existing 6 or 8 tracks on the city approach, or, you know, or it's a separate project, you know, and that gets built separately with a separate tunneling. It's a separate headline. These are this is the reason why HS2 is that number is so high. Sorry, I don't know why my light is so bright in my face. So no, I don't think that would have helped at all. It just would have never got off the ground. Michael C. There was a discussion on the Discord a while ago about how some of the alignment into Meadowhall has now been built on a different alignment. It's possible it would be slower. Yeah, bulldoze that stuff, whatever it is, should never have been built on. Gareth pointing out we're not a democracy. Well, yes, it's true. I was saying in an ideal situation, talking about the structure, yeah. Granted, Leeds would have been south facing. It could have been made through later. Yes, no. Actually, no. Looking again at north south, do you think there are many simple fixes on the East Coast Main Line to add more services, quadding the line from Peterborough to Doncaster? Not really, no, because it's some of the major pinch points are the challenge. You know, some of the major pinch points we have still present a serious challenge that you can't really do much about. York is a big one, but Leeds continues to be a major pinch point. The conflict in service, in services, all the stations that are currently on, that are next to the fasts is still a serious. Yeah, there's just. It's very difficult to get much more at the East Coast Main Line. All the platforms as long as they can be, so on. Was the Goulburn link to have going to have that 250 mile an hour design? I can't remember what the Goulburn link's actual geometry is designed to. Let's pop. Is it 362? I don't think I've drawn the Goulburn link in there, so I don't know exactly what its speed. I think it was. I mean, bear in mind, none of the railways to 250 miles an hour. The broad alignment is to 400 km an hour, but actually it's a 360 km an hour railway, and for the most part would have run at 320 or 340. Liverpool-Manchester line is also easily extended across the Pennines. You can always build a branch Liverpool when needed. Yeah, we'll talk about this when I put my proposed routes in the future. There's lots of detail we could talk about in terms of routes and alignments, but we'll save that because we will save that. I do want to wrap up sharply, actually. So, but more questions next week, I'm sure. I'm going to kind of whiz through what else have we got here. Ruben Jelly, joined late, so if you've already mentioned it, I'll rewind. How does southwestern alignment look? Bristol and beyond. That's for another episode. It's a good question. It's for another episode, but maybe I can just do this and have this in the background for you to just, have in the back of your head. There we go. Oh, look at that. And if you were going to do a high-speed route, then down to the southwest, then I would propose that you'd do it this way, not via Bristol, because you've got via Bristol, and there's not much population between Bristol and this part of Devon. So actually what you do is build something that connects London to Portsmouth much faster, and then gives you a connection down through to Cornwall, that route. That's what I would do there for the high-speed line, and I do think it should exist. There we go. Anyway, let's hide all that again, because... Oh, yeah, spoilers for a future episode. Katie Fenders, Green was there. It all comes down to poor planning for the plenaries. Yeah, it's bad. I knew there'd be a few Greens. Hi, Katie, by the way, you're brilliant. There'd be a few Greens for HS2 here. Yeah, it's very frustrating. The fact that only a couple of hours are saved for voting on policy is just not well organised. All that administrative stuff should be happening outside a conference, or just in online separately. Basically reserve it for an hour of online voting and discussion. That's not good. Let's see. Jay's Transport, slightly off topic, but with HS2 no longer going to Leeds or Yorkshire in general, are there any updates on East Coast Main Line upgrades, including 140 miles an hour? No, 140 miles an hour would be very bad for the East Coast Main Line. It would make everything worse. I just shared it on my Twitter feed. Go to my in fact, you know what, I may plug that actually. Let me just open a folder and then do this. Wait a minute. I'm doing stuff on the hoof here because I like to do stuff on the hoof because chaos. Let me just copy that and then copy this in here and do this and I didn't want to do that. I want to do this. And also, just a sec. I promise you, this is worth it. Where did I put? Oh yeah, it's in a Rail Natter episode, isn't it? Sorry, I'm waffling, everyone. This is great for the audio only people. I'm pulling up a poster. I promise you, it's relevant. There we go. Because there is for a plug for something that's absolutely relevant. Later on, a plug coming up relevant to that point. Tim is saying, is there a reason to... No, go away, YouTube. Stop it. If nothing else, there's a reason to build HS2 in full and go further. Climate change should make beer taste worse. Could make beer taste worse. Yeah, that would be the way to get it built. Paddy H, maybe ditch the name HS2, package up the rest of the proposed system into chunks, Manchester to tunnels, airport, Yeah, ideally, but that needs the long-term plan, and neither this government nor the next government will countenance that long-term plan. That's the challenge. I will keep banging the drum for it. Love to know my crane-easting of Preston, Glasgow, New York, Newcastle, Edinburgh, Leith onwards. Oh yeah, we'll get there. Unhappy churl. Yes. Future episode. So, oh my goodness, it just reset. What have I lost? Where were we? Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. YouTube, stop refreshing and sending me miles away. Do we know if West Coast mainline services from North of Birmingham will continue to go to Euston now, or could they start terminate Old Oak Common? I think they're going to terminate them Old Oak Common. Yes. Tom, if you do them in extra long, I'll buy extra long the t-shirts. I'm not sure. Go and have a look at the sizings. I'm not sure about the sizings. Fraser Crosby, any chance of a new run of the Pro Trans Pro Trains shirt? That's a Greens for HS2 one. Chase Greens for HS2 for that, but I have had some ideas for some more LGBTQ plus t-shirts for Railnatter, actually. Send your ideas in for t-shirts if you have thoughts. If Euston gets permanently effed, I don't know why I said that. If Euston gets permanently future expansion, where could future expansion in London go? The Farringdon-Hout-Bahnhof, which is one that I've talked about. No, I have a different idea about Euston now. In the past I've gone Farringdon-Hout-Bahnhof, but I think that would be more expensive than necessary. I have better plans for what you could do at Euston, actually. Johnny Dennis saying that HS2 is the red line. To be honest, trans rights was the red line for me for Labour. I was never going to vote for them while they were throwing while Rosie Duffield's still in the party. They're no longer getting my vote. Jack Elliott, do you think government shit canning of Euston has the potential to bring Farringdon-Hout-Bahnhof into virtual reality? Everyone's bringing up my Farringdon-Hout-Bahnhof. I've parked my Farringdon-Hout-Bahnhof idea, actually, as I've thought more about it and potential more cost-effective options, actually. Angus Swanson, why not a hub-style station between Liverpool and Manchester similar to Meadowhall? They're too big. The cities are too big and it's not necessary. You don't have to do it. I think avoiding hub stations, if you can avoid the hub station, I think you should. There's maybe an argument there for putting an underground station in Nottingham and then feeding to Derby, but different populations are different. The Manchester and Liverpool are concentrated enough population centres that I think city centre station is important. CNER need to go. Right, good. It's 5 past. We need to talk about. Any merit in starting bypass. Well, in bypass project will never happen, Barry. Unfortunately, it just never will. Compared to the EU model of separating track station work to the Trash Future discussion about contracting, what are the differences between separating projects and mass outsourcing? That's a good question and a complicated and lengthy one. I think we'll pick up with the next episode, actually. Right, it's just reset again. Thanks for supporting Greens for HS2. I wrote the motion. Yeah, hi, Jake. You wrote the motion. It was a good motion. Young Greens support HS2. It wrote the motion. Felt like members, especially progressives and the younger members, were going to vote for it. I think so. And I think that might have contributed to the problem because you'd have had a lot of unhappy, loud Greens saying otherwise, including some elected or formerly elected members. I think that's part of the problem. So... Right, here we go. Everyone's good. Right, fine. It's going on. Paddy H, nice one to end on. Isn't it classic British? We build it in the end, but spend decades more than needed and spend billions more than needed. Absolutely. So true. Let's go big face temporarily while I ask the question, which is... I need to do this. What is the question? The question is, what can we all do now? What do we do? What we do is write to our MPs. We particularly focus our efforts on Labour MPs. Focus on those Labour MPs. Really, write detailed, considerate, as in of evidence. You don't have to be particularly polite. Just bluntly explain why HS2 is a critical part of a long-term rail strategy, and just emphasise those words. And if you want me to, do suggest it. If you want an episode. Where we just talk about the language and how we can, how we describe and talk about why HS2 is important, then we can do that. And perhaps we do that as part of the future plans and what ideal high-speed rail network. Maybe we do it that way. But write emails. Write emails. Pester them on Twitter, but do it, provide evidence. Just be relentless in talking about it. Talk to your friends. Explain to people who don't care about railways why this stuff is important. But it's creating that groundswell, which I've tried to do my best for a long while now. Creating that groundswell is critical to ensure that Labour, when they come into power, when you start getting doorstepped, ask why Labour aren't going to build it in full and explain that it's critical that they do. If you campaign for Labour, get involved in Labour as a party, if you're a member still, commiserations, but also get stuck in, do the best to raise that at a constituency level and at a regional and national level. It's just critical that we do that. If you're interested in the Green Party, then join Greens for HS2. There's nothing better you can do than join Greens for HS2 and get involved with Greens for HS2. That's for the Green Party. And if you're a Tory, that's all I have to say to you. And not just because of HS2, frankly. HS2 is quite far down the list. If you're a Lib Dem, well, it's similar. It's nice for you that you're a Lib Dem. There's some great Lib Dems out there, actually. But not... Yeah, I'd be interested to see what happens in the next general election, won't it? It's similar, but fine. Anyway, that's what we can do now. That and a bit of despair. Shout at people. Have no patience. Stop engaging with the usual antis on Twitter. They're just a waste of time. I don't care that they're gloating. Like, they're gloating and they've got a load of motorways being built. So, absolutely those guys. I don't care. They're done. And if not, move to Slovenia. These are the other options available to you. So I'm going to draw the episode to a close. Everyone, that was a bit chaotic, but thanks for sending all your questions. I know it was a bit of a rambled chaos through there, but hopefully that's been useful. Bit of group therapy for everyone. Now what exactly, Andy Karras? Now what? Meet at dawn, bring pitchforks, or actually, no, bring cement mixers. We'll just build the thing ourselves. Audio only. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. I hope the audio quality is reasonable for you. I hope the levels weren't horrific. Let me know if they were. I've just finally taken control of the Spotify app version of the podcast, so I've now changed the trailer to not be the first bloody episode, because episode 0 was a mess, wasn't it? Thanks everyone for listening. Do continue to do that, because the statistics for this podcast will help me to do some things next year. Spoiler alert, ish, or tease anyway. Patreon.com/Gareth Dennis for the patron to support me. We are still aiming for the 200 supporters by the end of the year. I don't think that'll happen, but every supporter who joins helps this happen more. So please do. The Teespring site for GarethDennis.co.uk/merch for merchandise. We've got the Rail Natter sorters. We really must abolish Treasury. We really must abolish the Treasury. And also we've got the Build HS2 Now merch. Wear all of that at Labour Party conference. That would have been fun. Should have guerrilla bought that and sent it to everyone. PayPal.me/Gareth Dennis for abuse and loose change, and then the continued chat forever in the Discord server. Yes, let's call this episode some closure to what's been a pretty ugly couple of weeks. That's a good point, Jamie. Yeah, I agree. It's been grim. I did not feel nice on the day that it was announced, as you'd imagine. Also, I was very sleep deprived. So, some plugs. Firstly, the recording of Nerif is up. So if you're interested in learning about Metroflow, weird name, learning about the Northumberland line, or learning about York's new relief line being built north of the station, then I hosted this. It was on Wednesday, 20th September. Go listen. It should be an interesting thing for you to go listen to. There is a YouTube. You can go and find the link. It's in YouTube. You just search Nerif 2023 and you'll find it. Also on YouTube is this this lecture I gave for the Permanent Way Institution. Why we should stop doing line speed improvement projects, and it talks about why 140 mile an hour on the East Coast Main Line is a very bad idea. John Stone shared this out actually recently, which is nice. It's already the most watched video on the PWI website. I think it's maybe not quite. I'd be interested to see what other web videos have got high views, but this has got very high views already. So yes, go watch that. That should be interesting. Next week we're going to do what I was planning to do this week, which is probably a bit of news, and then we'll talk about why UK infrastructure is so slow and costly to build. Plenty of QAs. To A and to Q, so anything I didn't answer now, just chuck me at that next time. Thanks for joining this live one. First time I've done these in a while. Hopefully I wasn't dreadful at it. I don't know. It's been a while. The tech broke, and did I shout into the mic and the levels were all off, and I don't know. I was also a little bit late. Sorry. Anyway, enough of that, everyone. it's been a pleasure it's a bit of therapy. It's just a bit of like closure to this mess. We all knew it was going to happen, but it's like when it does happen, it's painful. Like this was an inevitability. I wrote about this 5 years ago. I knew it would happen from the moment that like the lack of plan, for no plan was. I thought they would start creating a plan once they started advancing it. They start creating a plan, but no plan for it was created. So this is an inevitability. And then the IRP basically at that point was like even before that. Oakervie meddling with Euston opened the gates into they're going to start hacking it, and then IRP obviously destroyed the eastern leg, and then from that point it was very obvious that from that point onwards it was doomed. Should we be building the bit that we're building now? Yes, because we will need it. There's no point stopping the bit that we are at least building. Let's keep doing that, because if we delay that, then it's just years. I don't care about cost. I care about the delays. The time is the thing that's most painful. Anyway, I'm 13 minutes beyond when I wanted to be saying goodbye to you all. Katie is playing the last post on the trumpet there. There we are. Oh, it's also a BR horn. Yeah, a little bit. I wonder if you could do the last post in a class 37 with the two-tone horn. Well, maybe the few lined up and just change the pitch. That'd be interesting. Someone do that. Anyway, right. Enough of this, everyone. Cheerio! Cheerio!